where and when did you get your first guitar? When did you start playing? And it's kind of an interesting story. My father, my real father, left when I was 6 months old to go and seek his fortune as a rock and roll star, playing guitar all over the world. And he did pretty well at it, and he had a lot of great adventures. But I was 14 years old, and I get this phone call at about midnight, and I answer, and a voice says, "Hey, is this Ronnie?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, hey, this is your dad." And I was like, excuse me? Because I hadn't seen him in years, hadn't heard from him, really didn't know hardly anything about him whatsoever. So he just calls me out of the blue at midnight. And so I just assumed it was, I had a couple buddies and we were always playing pranks on each other, 14-year-old boys. So I said, "Yeah, right, ha ha, funny, you got me." And I, slammed the phone down. Of course, those were the days, when you had a phone, like the old time phone, you could slam it down. You could make much more of a statement back in those days than you can now. Now it's just like, push the little button. Well, that doesn't say much. Like a minute goes by and the phone rings again, and I'm like, calling me back, whoever. So I pick up the phone. I'm like, "What?" And he said, "Ronnie, this is your dad. I want to talk to you for a minute." And I'm like, yeah, sure, it's my dad, right? And I slam the phone down again. He immediately calls back, and I answer, and he says, "Ronnie, listen, don't hang up. This is your dad, really. This is your father. Talk to me for a minute." He said, "Look, did you ever think about playing guitar? Would you like to have a guitar?" He said, "You like music?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I love music, I write a lot, I write stories and poetry and things like that. I try to be, a writer and creative, and I love music." So he says, "Look, I'm coming through town, and I'd like to meet with you, and I'll give you a guitar, and we could just talk a little bit." And I was like, kind of stunned with the whole thing. I'm like, "Okay, that's great," And he said, I'll be coming through there tomorrow." And we met up, and he, gave me a guitar and gave me an envelope with, I don't know, it was like $400 or $500 in it. And he gave me the book, Mel Bay guitar chord book. Very, very basic, just total beginners. I spent the next couple of years learning to play on an electric guitar. And if you ever tried to play an electric guitar without an amp, you know that you can barely hear it. So I would hunch over it, and I would practice the chords over and over, memorizing every chord I could, starting major, minor, minor seventh, diminished chords, augmented, 13th, all the different positions, up and down the neck, working so hard on that guitar until finally my mother bought me an acoustic guitar, and it was like, the world, everything just lit up. I can hear it. So that was a big day. I could finally hear the guitar, more than just a tiny little whisper. Oh, and I also, one of these days, will tell the story of this guitar, this Stratocaster right here that was my father's, and of this Huck guitar, maybe the only one of its kind in the entire world.